you were dealing with up here at Sad Practice Place. Well, the old ones you had to get really close to, but these are, you don't have to like, sit up on them.
Yep. All right, folks, good evening, and welcome to the Double Oak Town Council Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Cross Timbers Gazette. I'm Bob Weir, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's Candidate Forum. Before we begin, we'd like to have Mayor Von Bucher open with the invocation. Mayor?
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, everybody, for being here for this candidate forum. And after the invitation, let's stand and say the pledge to our flag. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this forum. Please help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community with respect and humility. Please bless and protect our first responders, our town staff, our local, state, and federal leaders, and those families who are represented here tonight. And we thank you for your continued blessings on our community. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Amen. Thank you, Mayor. All right.
Bob, can we stand and have the pledges, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, of course.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. All right, I'm here with Max Miller. I see he's here now. Hi, Max. Max is the publisher of the Cross Timbers Gazette. The Cross Timbers Gazette is Denton County's largest locally owned newspaper, mailed to 55,000 homes and businesses each month, including every mailbox in Double Oak. The motto is "Local Lives Here." You can also read the latest Southern Denton County news online anytime at www.crosstimbersgazette.com, also on their Facebook and Twitter pages. Tonight's forum is being live streamed and video recorded by the town of Double Oak, and you can watch it on demand anytime at crosstimbersgazette.com. I'd now like to welcome and introduce the Double Oak Town Council candidates who are running for 3 at-large seats. They are Timothy Bologna, Billie Garrett, Jean Hillyer, Patrick Johnson, and Connie Schoenrade. Did I pronounce that correctly? Schoenrade, okay. All right, each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. After the opening statements, I'll ask the candidates question, and they will each have 1 minute to answer. We'll also allow for an optional 30-second rebuttal. Excuse me. Finally, there will be 1 minute for closing statements. We have here from Troop 99, Boy Scout Grayson is here as our timekeeper. We had our committee member Joe was here, but I see he's been replaced. All right. Okay, so we'll begin our 1 minute opening statements with Timothy Bologna.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me say thank you to all of you for coming out today. My name is Timothy Bologna. I grew up in South Louisiana. I have a business degree from the University of Louisiana. I married a wonderful, beautiful girl, Sally, from Munster, Texas. We have 4 fantastic kids. One is out on her own, and the other 3 are active in the Marcus High School marching band and Storm baseball. We have lived in Double Oak for 9 years. I have served 1 term on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I am running for the privilege to serve on the Double Oak Town Council because I want to work for the citizens of Double Oak to make it the best it can be. I believe that citizen involvement is vital to the survival of our democracy, and I think there's no greater service than to give back to the community in which I and we live, work, and play. I'm here to support funding for the police and fire department with grant writing program and creative fundraising ideas. I want to engage the youth citizens of Double Oak with fun activities to build a community in which they want to come back to. And I am for maintaining and improving infrastructure as needed given the surrounding development and traffic that is headed our way.
Thank you, Timothy. Billie Garrett, your 1-minute opening, please.
Yes, Bob, thank you. Thanks for hosting the event. Mayor Vaughn, thank you for coordinating this. I also like to thank the town staff and all of the candidates here tonight in the audience for joining us. I grew up in a small town in Kansas, and that's what Double Oak reminds me of. I've been in Texas for 17 years. We've lived in Double Oak for 11 and a half years. I've also been a member of the Women's Club for 11 and a half years, and I'm on our HOA board in Carruth Estates. My goal is to serve my community. I am an accountant. I'm a CPA in the state of Texas, and I work for a privately owned family business in Irving. My goal is to support the town and listen to the constituents to see what they want and, you know, keep Double Oak the way it is. Support our police, support our fire department, and make this the town that we all love.
Thank you, Billie. Jean Hilliard, your 1-minute opening, please.
I'm Jean Hillyer, and I've been a resident of Texas since 1996. Arrived in Double Oak in 2013. I grew up in a small bedroom community in Nebraska, very similar to Double Oak. You could feel safe riding your bike around town near your neighbors. So it feels like I'm back home, even though I'm in Texas. After I finished high school, I completed a double major at Wayne State College in Northeast Nebraska in history and library science. Taught in the public schools in Nebraska for 7.5 years. Started writing some software programs in DOS for CPR training. That led to obtaining a position with the IBM Corporation, where I spent 21.5 years in a variety of sales and marketing positions in Iowa, Connecticut, and Texas. After that, I went to work for Baylor University School of Nursing as a medical librarian. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of Wayne State College and also a member of the 40-year member of the PEO Sisterhood, and I'm looking forward to serving Double Oak in the best of my capacity now that I'm retired.
Thank you, Jean. Patrick Johnson, your 1-minute opening, please.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mayor Vaughn and the citizens of Double Oak for coming out tonight and the staff. My name is Patrick Johnson. I've been a Double Oak resident for almost 17 years. I'm currently a member of the Double Oak Planning and Zoning Board. Married 29 years. I have 2 grown daughters. Both are nurses, or one will soon become one. The other one is one. My wife is a global account manager for a large credit card processor, and I am the president of Comco Systems out of Lake Dallas, Texas. Our company manufactures pneumatic tube systems for banks, credit unions, pharmacies. I have been in leadership roles all my life. In the past, the town council election in Double Oak would consist of 1 or 2 candidates vying for 1 or 2 spots. Many years, there are candidates ran opposed, like the mayoral race last year, and at times, former council members were recruited back to fill the position. For this election cycle, there are 5 candidates seeking 3 seats. Why now is there all this interest in town council positions this year as opposed to other election years? Why are the websites that reference Double Oak conservative citizens and posts next door on Facebook, and what's going on in Double Oak? Tonight, you'll learn about the qualified candidates who are, and my goal is to reassure you.
Thank you, Patrick.
I've got your back.
Connie Schoenrade, your 1-minute opening, please.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight and for hosting this forum so we could introduce ourselves to you. I'm a farm kid from Illinois, raised with 7 brothers and sisters. I met my husband at a steel tubing company we both worked at. We got married and we moved to Texas in 1995. We both transferred with our employers and had an apartment in Arlington. And while we were looking for our forever home, we were pointed in the direction of Double Oak, which had 1-acre lots. We fell in love with the open spaces. Built in 1996, and we started our family here. We have 3 children who attended Flower Mound Elementary, Downing Middle School, and the last one's about to graduate from Marcus in May. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and have worked in various industries during my career, including the food, electronics, and now healthcare, as well as being a stay-at-home mom for 5 years. I've been managing a private practice and working with the child psychologist in Flower Mound for 12 years. I'm running for town council now because I have more time to dedicate to this town. The older one gets, we start paying more attention to the things that affect us directly, whether it's our bodies, our physical health, or how our families are aging in our town. So I've been watching and listening, and I don't want to be passive anymore. I care
Thank
about
you.
what's happening and what's happening around us.
Thank you, Connie. We'll now begin a question and answer format. Each candidate has 1 minute to answer the question. We also allow for an optional 30-second rebuttal, and questions will be asked in rotating order. We begin the questioning with Timothy Bologna. The question is, with appraised values blowing up and property taxes rising, should the town's tax rate be lowered? If so, how would you accomplish that?
That's a good question. With property rates rising, if you leave the tax rate where it is, taxes go up a little bit, but I would not raise it and I would not lower it, because eventually property values may come back down and you need to leave the tax rate where it is. If you make an adjustment as property values come down and we lose revenue, you might have to raise the rate up again. So I'm all for leaving the rate where it is and let property values adjust where they will.
Thank you, Timothy. Billie Garrett, same question.
Thanks, Bob. I agree with Tim. I think it can be a catch-22. If you lower the tax rate too much, and then when the real estate market right-sizes itself, then that could cost Double Oak some revenue. So I would prefer to keep the tax rate stable. We could potentially lower it a little, but lowering it too much could cause us to have to raise it in future years.
Thank you, Billy. Same question, Jean Hilliard.
Well, I would differ a little bit from the two prior speakers. I think that we need to manage our property tax rates to reflect the fact that the property tax values are increasing and appear to continue that trend. So I believe that taxpayers are better at spending their money than government. You know, we don't need it to support the government because we are fiscally sound here in Double Oak, which is a credit to prior town councils and mayors. That we need to lower it to reflect that so that people can continue to afford to live in Double Oak.
Thank you, Jean. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
Yes, I believe that what really should happen is there should be an evaluation done, evaluation of our future earning on our sales tax versus the offset of any property tax reduction. It is no secret of what's taking place around us with million-dollar homes being built in the Vickery property and what's going to happen potentially in the crossings over in Flower Mound. So as a town council, we need to sit down and really take a hard look at how this is impacting. We have a citizens, 45.9 years is the median age in Double Oak, which means that we have a lot of folks that are getting to a point where they can't afford the tax increases. And so what we should do is work hard at doing an offset and potentially lowering the property taxes so that we can have the most minimal impact to those who need it.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question for Connie Schoenrade.
Yes, well, we all know, and this has already been stated, the property taxes continue to go up in Denton County. And even if we bring that rate down, the revenue still increases because the values went up. We did see a surplus of revenue come in our last year's budget after the audit. I think we have potential to bring down the citizen portion of the taxes. Our services are limited, and as part of our structure here in Double Oak, we like it that way. We don't have what bigger cities have, street lights, stoplights, all those extra amenities that cost their communities those higher tax dollars. We don't have it here, and that's actually part of the charm of Double Oak and what we all seem to want to keep here. So I think a good analysis of the budget and looking at what is actually needed, and then fund with the other revenue sources that we have as a town before we go looking for citizen contribution of taxes.
Thank you, Connie. For the next question, we begin with Billie Garrett. And the question is, what specific things can the town do to better communicate with its citizens?
I think we need to make sure that the citizens, historically in the past, town staff had a list of email addresses. About 3-4 years ago, we updated our website and we sent out numerous, communications we have an option on the website that you can get that out there. We need to make sure that our citizens know what we're doing, and that the communication is out there, word of mouth even, talking amongst HOAs that you have, within your community. Implore your neighbors to come and pay attention, attend council meetings, and, talk amongst each other.
Thank you, Billy. Same question for Jean Hillier.
I agree with Billy that we need to individually engage with our neighbors in our neighborhoods and through our HOAs in the areas where they exist. I would also like to see additional communication through the use of social media. Double Oak has a Facebook page, and I don't see any reason why they couldn't post more there, since a lot of people visit Facebook on a regular basis. And then also next door has a couple of several Double Oak groups and a number of Double Oak residents on that. So those would be two additional ways that are essentially at no additional charge other than the time it takes our staff to actually make posts there in terms of town events and meetings and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Jean. Patrick Johnson, same question.
Well, there's no doubt that we need to improve our communication here in Double Oak. We have our website, which is good, but I think that we could be more proactive off of that. I think that we've got to get more contact information, specific contact information for not only the town council, but for the mayor in more public view. I think social media is absolutely an area that we really must start to engage in. There should be a social media strategy for Double Oak. This isn't just about the communication to our town residences, but we now have a large parcel of businesses, and we want to attract those individuals from Copper Canyon, Flower Mound, Highland Village to come do business in Double Oak. The other piece, I believe, is that the town council should get, everything happens to come to this building. There's nothing wrong with the town council gets out. There's 23 subdivisions in Double Oak, and we need to be out involved in each and every one of them.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question, Connie Schoenrade.
Communication is two ways. Definitely the website has had significant improvements as I've been visiting it regularly in the last 6 months. So lots of enhancements, but lots of areas for growth, like more minutes from the committees that we have in town. It's not a lot about the committees outside of P&Z and adjustments. We know they exist. But I'd like to see more from the Road and Drainage Committee. Have it posted to the community so we know where we stand on road improvements or drainage projects in our neighborhoods. There's like 23 neighborhoods in our town, so we're very diverse, and we need voices coming from each of them so we understand what infrastructure problems are happening there, and vice versa. So I'd like to see that in the communication realm, and as was stated, more meeting with people, and hopefully you guys are all here tonight, some more attendance to the town council meetings so that you are informed, and that was what I'd like to see in the future.
Thank you, Connie. Same question, Timothy Bologna.
Okay, thank you. Look, clearly communication is an area that everybody can improve on, right? Whether you're a citizen or a council member. And social media is great, and that's a way to hit the masses, but my opinion is I think you need to go meet the citizens where they are. I think you need to go and meet with the HOAs. You need to go knock on doors. You need to go engage with the citizens at their house. You need to, make that effort to get your voice out there, make that effort to engage with those citizens. There are, a number of different things that we can do around outreach programs to help, with the dilapidated entrances into neighborhoods, and we can get communities around and organized around that so that we have that engagement with those folks where they are so they understand where we're coming from.
Thank you, Timothy. For the next question, we begin with Jean Hillier, and the question is, the town currently has Board of Adjustment and Planning and Zoning committees which are considered ad hoc. How do you feel about term limits for the leadership positions of these committees in order to bring more involvement/training for all members, including alternates?
In general, I think term limits are a good thing. I would, off the top of my head, a caveat would be you need people who are, who understand what's going on in those various committees and what the town's needs. And it kind of goes back to the conversation or the question we just had about communications. You need to get the word out there, and they need to have citizens who have the time and feel it's important to be engaged in that. So to the extent that you can mentor people into heading these committees, absolutely we should do that. It just strengthens our ability to meet the community's needs.
Thank you, Jean. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
My answer is simple, and that'd be term limits, as long as you've got a community that is willing to step up and volunteer. So I think that term limits could be a good thing, but we would definitely want to have a succession program for the boards and commissions, for the planning and zoning, so that we're actively recruiting those folks to come in, as Jean said, and mentor and learn. Secondary to that, we seem to be stuck in a little bit of a loop here with just the same type of boards and commissions. And, you know, we're not a small town. We're a small town in size, but we're not necessarily a small town in terms of our peer group. Between Highland Village, Copper Canyon, Flower Mound, I mean, we've got some big communities around us. Why are we not doing some similar things that they're doing, such as some sort of an economic committee that can go out and work with our businesses and promote more about the town and what the town has to offer? And I think that would just flow through to the citizens in order to get them interested in these boards and commissions.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question, Connie Schoenrade.
I am a proponent of term limits. I like to see it at the federal level, and local level is fine with me too, but as was stated, we need community involvement in order to keep people engaged and help on these committees that they serve. So that is good. I did look up the definition of ad hoc, and that means temporary. I don't see P&Z going away. Road and drainage is considered ad hoc, but that's a continuous problem for our town, and so it should be more permanent. So I'd like to see the committees that are out there built up. Some new ones could be suggested. I'm open to ideas, but definitely we need community involvement in these and liaisons between town council and those committees, and I think they can benefit the town, and it takes more than just this particular set of people to help things be better here in our town.
Thank you, Connie. Same question goes to Timothy Bologna.
I'm willing to take a look at, term limits on rotation of leadership positions on council or on P&Z and those boards of adjustments, but you have to have citizen involvement in order to do that. I think it would be great. I think certainly there's enough people in town who have the ability to think critically, evaluate information, and make decisions that can serve on these boards. And, we can rotate them up to get them some training as well. So, I'm all for taking a look at that, and I think that that's probably a pretty good idea. So.
Thank you, Timothy. Same question for Billie Garrett.
Term limits are good in some things. Our town is a town that needs volunteers. As I often tell everybody, I have a problem with my volunteer hand. It doesn't know how to stay down by my side. It always flies up, which is how I ended up on council and how I end up on, different boards in our community. But that's what we need. We need volunteers from the community to step up and be on these committees. We ask continually, we're always sending out emails. We need, volunteers for the planning and zoning, for Board of Adjustments. And very rarely do we get, enough applicants to fill all the spots we have, including alternates. So that's what we need, is volunteers. If you get enough volunteers, then you can talk about term limits.
Thank you, Billy. For the next question, we begin with Patrick Johnson, and the question is, how can Double Oak better attract and promote local businesses?
Well, I think I mentioned it just in my last response, and that is that we should be forming some sort of economic or marketing or Chamber of Commerce type committee that not only are we proactively through social media, through our websites, trying to attract more businesses for the people who have made the investment in Double Oak with the buildings and such, but we also need to sit down and assist those businesses in how they can promote as well. I know that we've got a nice visibility along 407 there, and what if the community held some sort of a event to kind of bring people over You've seen radio stations that have come out and set up and done promotional things. Those are just a couple of examples. But the more we can help our businesses, the more we can attract more businesses. It's just going to increase our sales tax revenue, which will assist us then when we have to go offset our property taxes.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question, Connie Schoenrade.
I think we've been discovered, there's not too many open spaces left for our businesses to be developed, but I think it's important that as a town, we have good relationships with these businesses that are coming in, and as citizens, patron those businesses so they have a reason to stay. I was listening to Highland Village, and they're suffering some losses of businesses in their community, and certainly once we get somebody, we really don't want to lose them. So patroning them is good. Also, making sure our police force is over there to make sure they don't have any criminal activity. No one wants to come to a town and suffer vandalism or anything like that. So we want them to be successful here in our community, and that takes all of us to help them. And them participating in our 4th of July parade is great, and also we have space for them on our website, and that's helping them market too, and letting people know that they're there.
Thank you, Connie. Timothy Bologna, your response?
Yes, I'm all for engaging with businesses and developing those relationships and, reaching out to new businesses to come in town. I'm all for champion sensible development of whatever available land that we have left, that is consistent with the needs and desires of the town and the types of businesses that we want. We don't just want, a high volume gas station sitting on the corner of Simmons and 407. So it's the types of businesses that we want. And once we maximize that available commercial space, then we can generate the revenue to help keep those taxes low. So I'm all for outreach to different developers and, different businesses to see what we can do and come up with a plan of what types of businesses it is that we want in town.
Thanks, Timothy. Same question, Billie Garrett.
I think it is a great idea to put a committee together to, explore different options. I think it's great that we have a variety of businesses where we have some that are bringing in sales tax revenue and some that won't. Those could change over time. I think it's great for the citizens to support our local businesses. We have one parcel of land really that could probably be developed into further business at 407 and Simmons. Our residents get concerned about commercial. I live right there in Kruth Estates, so that will be something, like Tim just said, I don't want a gas station at that corner, that's for sure, but I'm glad to see more gas stations in the area. When we first moved here, they were several miles away. But yes, community involvement, engaging with the businesses, making sure that we can do whatever to help them, support them, and keep them here and make them feel welcome.
Thank you, Billy. Same question, Jean Hillier.
Along the lines of what we've already heard, I agree that I like to be proactive in how I address situations and knowing that there isn't much space left. Absolutely, we need to engage with the businesses that we have, but it would be nice to put together a plan of what we would ideally like to see there that would best serve the citizens of Double Oak and the ones in the adjoining communities as well. That would be in keeping with who we are in Double Oak, would reflect our attitudes and values.
Thank you, Jean. For the next question, we begin with Connie Schoenrade, and the question is, how important is it to have previous experience on municipal boards or commissions prior to running for town council?
Well, I am one of the candidates that has not served on a town committee. I've been serving in my children's schools, in my Boy Scout scouting organization, and I taught religious ed for 10 years. So after we started our family, I was spending my volunteer hours in those organizations. I have those skill sets from my career and from those other committees that I participated in, and I think they're valuable on town council. What I've seen from Double Oaks committees is that they meet infrequently or rarely, and it's good that you participate, but that's not steady like a town council position is. So you definitely are involved, and you're seeing things that I can't say that I witnessed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's a great prerequisite to serving here in this capacity. I have other skills I think I can bring to the party.
Thank you, Connie. Same question, Timothy Bologna.
Yes, I do think it's important to serve on a committee before you serve on council. I think it will give you a perspective on how things operate. I have served on the Planning and Zoning Board, but more importantly than just having the experience of being on the board, I mean, you have to have the ability to, think critically. You have to be able to evaluate information. You have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to build a consensus. So I think having the experience is a plus, but I don't think that it's necessary. I think that, as long as you can communicate and be able to make some decisions, then I think you're okay.
Thank you, Timothy. Billie Garrett, your response?
I had not been on Planning and Zoning or Board of Adjustments before I, volunteered for council. I saw an opening and another way to serve my community. Is it critical, maybe in a bigger, municipality or city, for Double Oak? Again, it's the volunteering and the fact that you want to learn, you want to be more involved in what's going on in your town. I've learned a lot, and in the time that I have been on council, and I didn't know anything, but I know a lot more now about how to run a town and how the town operates than I did then. So I don't think it's a high qualification, but it would be helpful to know some. But I went into it blind, and I think I've been doing okay.
Thank you, Billy. Same question, Jean Hillier.
I agree with pretty much the consensus. I think it's helpful if you bring some community experience, and I just recently got added to the Technology Committee and Roads and Drainage, because I have a desire to engage with the community, and I learned a long time ago in PEO that if you want to know, or any organization, how something works, you got to raise your hand and volunteer and engage. And that goes beyond just attending meetings. Do your research, do your homework, engage with people, learn from the facts, learn from the circumstances, and then bring all that to the table. And then you have to be able to work with others to come to consensus decisions for that. So nice, but as Billy just said, not as critical in a community the size of Double Oak, but certainly helpful.
Thank you, Jean. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
So I guess I kind of look at it like that first job interview you got out of college or out of high school, to where you're sitting in front of someone who you'd like to work for, but they said, well, what experience do you have? Well, I don't have any. How does one get it? You've got to get a chance. You have to have an opportunity. So as I look at this as being a true criteria, I believe that if we wanted to make this a criteria for town council, I believe we would have a lot of people who would not be interested. So although the experience is important, you've got folks who come in from professional lives that have probably sat on boards and committees, which they can bring that, So what would be wrong with maybe doing a little bit more of an interview for those folks who want to run to this? That's kind of what we're doing here today in front of the forum. But I definitely think that the experience can be learned, it can be taught, and learning is the best way to go about it, and on-the-job training does work.
Thank you, Patrick. For the next question, we begin with Timothy Bologna. The question is, would you support the Roads and Drainage Committee becoming two separate committees?
I don't know. I'd have to take a look at that, but I don't think I would. I think that roads and drainage as one committee is probably fine. I think that, looking at flooding issues and things like that also tend to fall with, flooded roads as well as drainage issues. I know there's some drainage issues over on the south side of town. So I'm of the opinion that that's probably okay to stay as one board and committee.
Thank you, Timothy. Same question, Billie Garrett.
I agree. Well, we're not small, but we're not huge. And yes, I think everybody can speak to some type of drainage problem in their neighborhood, or someone that's in Double Oak that has a drainage problem when it rains. And we get a lot of rain in a short amount of time. We have it, Twin Lakes has it, Kings Road, it's all over. But the committee, they don't meet often, and so if they need to focus, roads this time and drainage a different meeting, maybe have more meetings to discuss it. It's something that definitely, I think future councils will have to take into consideration, the aspect of all of our roads and drainage as they deteriorate. Double Oak's an older community, and, things age and they have to be taken care of.
Thank you, Billy. Same question, Jean Hillier.
I just got on roads and drainage, and I haven't really engaged to know enough to know. But I always like to research things and understand what the pros and cons are. And I've heard from some citizens that I've talked to in the process of campaigning for the Double Oak Town Council that they think maybe the two should be split because maybe one's getting more attention than the other, and perhaps if it was split into two, there wouldn't be less focus on one or the other. And again, some of the drainage issues like Kings Road, and I'm even concerned about, what's gonna come out of that Vickery development once that's totally completed, because it's gonna, we're downstream for that, and I think it's gonna impact the residents in the lakes all the way downstream, and that's a big issue. So I guess I'd wanna look into it.
Thank you, Jean. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
I would absolutely be for splitting into two committees, and here's why. Our future, with the potential traffic issues we're gonna have in the future, are gonna have major impact of the roads. Those roads are gonna have impact on the drainage and vice versa. We took a 50.57% increase in our public works budget from 2021 to 2022. That's a significant amount. We are investing in someone to come in and work hard as a public works with the town. If we've got one committee doing two separate things, we're never gonna get the right focus that we need. We've gotta find the right people to get on roads, we've gotta get the right people to get on drainage, and if we don't pick this up, and if we don't start working on this right now, it's gonna be too late in the future, and then it's gonna be very expensive for this town to address it. So I am definitely for splitting the committees.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question for Connie Schoenrade.
Well, I imagine that committee was formed many years ago, back when the town was formed, and our infrastructure has changed a lot. And there's heavy demands on both roads and on drainage. So if we have the volunteerism and we could separate them, I think it's worth looking into. As Patrick said, you got a budget, you've got public works now is more involved, and maybe both issues would get more attention. And they could be fixed in a Band-Aid method that's actually more long-lasting than Band-Aids typically are. But we could address things quicker if you kind of conquer and divide and conquer atmosphere. So if we have the skill sets and the expertise and the desire to serve, maybe on roads over drainage, I think it's worth looking into. So I would be supporting of it if that was a reasonable solution.
Thank you, Connie. For the next question, we begin with Billie Garrett. And the question is, what do you see as the biggest threat to Double Oak's way of life, and how would you address that threat?
Double Oak's way of life. Thanks, Bob. When we moved here 11 and a half years ago, we live in Cruth Estates, and Sonic was the only thing on the north side of Cedar Crest to Lantana Trail. It's completely full now. I remember when we moved, my husband said, I'd kind of like to maybe be a little farther out. And I told him, you don't have to drive from here to Irving every day. I don't do that anymore, thanks to COVID. But when I do go, it's a lot of traffic. How do we stop the world from growing in around us? We can't stop that. I wish 407 was a 6-lane road so it could handle the traffic better. But I think that's, I guess the biggest threat, if there is a threat, is that everything is just surrounding and around us. But
Thank you, Billy. Sorry, the clock grabbed you. Thank you, Billy. The same question for Jean Hillier.
I feel the same way. I feel like, I believe Double Oak is an oasis in the middle of, some high-density growth. And recently, some of us have been talking a lot about the proposed Cummings Ranch development. And a number of us have attended planning and zoning and ECC meetings and whatnot, and also sent input to the Flower Mound P&Z and ECC and the town council saying, hey guys, this may look really attractive to you, but they're gonna have some really negative impacts on the communities just adjacent to that, which includes Double Oak. So I think part of the solution is to maintain and engage actively with our surrounding communities as these kinds of developments are proposed, to make sure that we can do our best to maintain the lifestyle that we have here and not just get, squished and stuck in traffic.
Thank you, Gene. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
Well, obviously, I think it's coming to a consensus here that it is traffic. It absolutely is traffic. You take the flow of traffic out of the Vickery property, which is well ahead of schedule, which is gonna clog up 407. Vickery 2 on the other side of 407 will break ground here within the next 2 months. If you're not aware of that, that's happening. That's another 300 to 400 density houses on the north side of 407. Lantana is not built out. Bartonville is working on a project behind their Bartonville Town Center. You throw the Cummings Ranch in, and now you tell me how you're gonna get to the corner of 2499 and 407. You're gonna do it one way, and that is to cut through Cedar Crest, Simmons, or Tanglewood to get down through Cross Timbers to hit the brand new Wakeman, which is gonna be awesome, or you're gonna come down through Kings Road from the Cummings Ranch, and we are headed for a disaster in Double Oak if we don't get a committee together to specifically address traffic and future traffic problems that we're gonna have in Double Oak. It needs to start now.
Thank you, Patrick. Connie Schoenrade, your response, please.
I agree. It's well stated by everyone who said the cities surrounding our small 2-square-mile town, they are building up. They are continuing to build up, and their traffic will use Double Oak. Cummings Ranch, as was mentioned, we're a perfect shot from the Cummings Ranch property at the end of Shiloh all the way to Target and Dick's, versus alternate routes for that development, which is supposed to have 218 houses potentially going down there. So working with our neighboring towns to try to, if we can dissuade them from some of their proposed ideas, or look to the future, how are we gonna remedy it? Because we don't wanna be a cut-through town. Our little piece of paradise here is not designed for that, nor do we want it. The other threat to us is property taxes. As our values continue to skyrocket, our taxes will go up. And we have at least 16% of our population is over 65 on fixed incomes, and we need to do what we can to help keep them here in Double Oak.
Thank you,
affording
Connie.
it.
Timothy Bologna, your response?
Look, I mean, I agree that, the development that's coming and the traffic that coming towards Double Oak is certainly an issue, but I look at this as a little bit different when you talk about the way of life of Double Oak. We all talk about how we love the 4th of July parade and, those types of events. And I think we ought to do more to engage the youth in this town. I think there are some STEM projects that we can do, like soapbox derbies going down Simmons. I think that there's a lot of community type events that we can engage with the youth of this town to build the community that they want to come back to. I think that we can do some internship programs. I think that we can do some things around, a fire truck pull to, raise some money for the fire department. So I think that there's a number of events that we can do to just engage the youth in this town and build that community and that way of life.
Thank you, Timothy. For the next question, we begin with Gene Hillyer. And the question is, given the current state of the economy, do you feel town staff and police officers are adequately compensated, paid too much, or not enough?
Oh, that's a struggle here in Double Oak, and there was a serious conversation about that last fall at the budget meeting. I believe that we need to be competitive with our town staff and our police force who keep us safe and keep us, moving forward. I was disappointed that apparently the town council did not do a salary survey with surrounding communities to see where we fit in competitively. Where I come from, when I was working in IBM and working at Baylor, you always did your homework and found out what was going on to make sure that you could defend any decision you were making and that, you know, you want to keep the staff you have because you know who they are, they know who you are, and you don't want them getting poached, but also you want to maintain good relationships with the surrounding communities, in that if you do something that's out of line, you kind of put them in a bad position, makes it difficult to work with them.
Thank you, Gene. Same question for Patrick Johnson.
Well, like Gene said, obviously, we definitely failed to do the proper due diligence as it relates to the competitive salaries. That information is out there, it's readily available. We could have done some contrast and compare. I believe that obviously we wanted to provide merit when merit is due through the review process. And I think that not just the staff, but every position, every paid position should be reviewed on a regular and annual basis, and then merit provided at that time. You know, human capital is typically one of the largest investments that a business or a town can make, and obviously good, clean, transparent evaluation to do all of that is what the town citizens should expect.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question, Connie Schoenrade.
That is kind of a hot topic in town, and I've asked for a salary review to be done. I'm hoping we'll see one before the next budget period, just to make sure that we are compensating our staff adequately and appropriately for the size of our town. That's important. Retention of good employees is a factor all businesses have to be conscious of, and so do small towns. So definitely want to make sure that we are doing what is right and appropriate. And if we have to make adjustments for it, then we may have to do that. I want to keep our budget in line and our income and revenues in line with what our needs are. It was a 9% increase across the board, was a little bit high. So I'd like to just take a good look at that and make sure that we're doing appropriate adjustments for our employees.
Thank you, Connie. Timothy Bologna, your response?
Yeah, I'm all for funding the police department to ensure that there's competitive salaries, adequate training, necessary equipment in order for our police officers to protect and serve the citizens of Double Oak. I'm also in favor of, funding the fire department for adequate training and proper equipment for them to perform their duties. If you're worried about budget dollars and money, I believe that there is a lot of government grant money available, and if we had a grant writing initiative, I'm sure we could raise a lot of money to offset a lot of those budget concerns and be able to afford what it is that we need for our police and fire departments. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Billie Garrett, your response?
Being the sole sitting council member up here, I can say that there was a survey done for the police department. We, looked at surrounding communities. Double Oak is very unique, and it's hard to find an exact community just like Double Oak. But we did have a survey, and we were trying to get our police department up out of the bottom because we were having officers apply, but we couldn't compete with the salary. We gave a 9% raise, and Argyle gave a 12% raise. So we didn't gain really anything. And so it's hard. And being a police officer, we all see in the media and everywhere what happens with them. So being competitive there. We had a salary survey done back in 2018, 2019 for the full staff. And I am looking at that and wanting to make sure that we roll that forward and see where we're at collectively for the whole staff.
Thank you, Billy. For the next question, we begin with Patrick Johnson. Sounds like it may relate to the last question, but do you support a full-time 24/7 police department? Why or why not?
Yes, I do support a full-time police department. I think it's totally invaluable to Double Oak. We are the safest city in North Texas. We are the safest city for the town, in towns our size here in the state of Texas. As we all know, through the political upheaval or whatever that we want to call it that's happened over the past 2.5 years, we know that the crime is ultimately finding us. We've had incidents where a lady's house was broken into while she was there. We've had some cars stolen. We've had some things happen in Double Oak. And quite frankly, we've got to make sure that we're protecting ourselves, we're protecting our citizens. So absolutely. I do think that we need to be fiscally responsibility as it relates to the type of vehicles that we drive, versus a Challenger versus a Tacoma versus another type of car. I think we need to set some standards, and we need to follow those standards and stay within them and keep the budget where it should be.
Thank you, Patrick. Same question, Connie Schoenrade.
I think we have a great police force and appreciate the safety reputation that we have in this town. If we get these traffic impacts from our neighboring communities and using as our cut-through, we're going to need that police force, unfortunately, to curtail speeding in our town and making it unsafe for our citizens here. I agree we need fiscal responsibility over that portion of the budget and making sure that they are compensated adequately for retention purposes and that we have the coverage that we need to support a town our size.
Thank you, Connie. Same question, Timothy Bologna.
Brevity may serve me well here. My simple answer to this is yes. I support the full-time police department. I love having them sit on my back parking pad down Simmons, and I tell everybody who comes through, be careful, you'll get a speeding ticket. So, yes, I'm in favor of a full-time police department.
Thank you, Timothy. Billie Garrett, your response?
I am absolutely in favor of the 24/7 police department. They sit in different places. Everybody, I see different people. I associate with other people that live in surrounding communities, and everybody talks about the Double Oak Police Department. Don't roll through your stop sign. Don't speed. But it goes to, former Chief Watson and Chief Rivas, who's been here for 15, 16 years now, and we have some long-term officers, and it goes to all the training that they do and getting to know their community and just being around. I mean, and they'll stop and they'll talk to you. They'll come if you see a, suspicious vehicle in your neighborhood, and you call the non-emergency line and just say, hey, can you send the officer over here? And they'll do it. And so it goes to show how involved they are and how much they care about our community when none of them live here. I mean, one, I think. And so, but it's good that they care as much as they do.
Thank you, Billy. Same question, Jean Hillier.
I agree with my peers. I'm a strong supporter of our police. I think they provide us the safety and security that we need. I can't envision changing that, honestly, especially in light of the fact that as development continues around us, there's just the opportunity for more crime either around us or to come in here. And having a police force that knows who we are and we know who they are certainly helps us maintain that. But also we have reciprocal agreements with the surrounding communities, and I think we need to maintain that reciprocity as well. So I would absolutely maintain that. Again, going back to Patrick's comment that we do need to have fiscal responsibility.
Thank you, Jean. For the next question, we begin with Connie Schoenrade, and the question is, there are town committees such as the Information Technology Committee, Investment Committee, Master Planning Committee, Ordinance Review Committee that may not be currently active. What step would you take to make such committees fully functional?
Well, one part would be recruitment. I did notice that back in November, there was in the minutes the need for people to sign up to be participating on the committees, and then there was nothing. So silence is not going to get you people. It should be posted on the website. If we have open positions and we're interested in people joining them, that should be published out there, and the website is a perfect location to put it rather than in minutes from 6 months ago. So, and we should be looking at the committees and see where they're value added today, and if others should be suggested and formed.
Thank you, Connie. Same question, Timothy Bologna.
Yes, if we have, a number of committees with vacant spaces, available on them, I, think we need to fill those. And how do we fill those? Obviously, it comes back to citizen participation. How do we get citizen participation? We need to go and knock on doors and meet your neighbors and ask and talk to them and try and get them engaged to want to be able to come and serve. And part of that is you have to make the process not so cumbersome, not so visceral, not so combative. Let's engage with our citizens. Let's, actively pursue them to serve on some of these committees and make it service as something that is to be admired.
Thank you, Timothy. Same question, Billie Garrett.
I agree. I think we need diversity amongst the committees to where, I know just recently on the Road and Drainage Committee, we have some vacancies and we're looking for different areas of town to be on that committee. I think that needs to happen on all of our committees. But again, it goes back to getting people to volunteer for those committees. I know one thing from a council perspective, the sign ordinance, it needs to be updated because it seems like every time we put a business comes in, they want to do a sign and we're doing an exception. So that's one thing that we've talked about, that the ordinances, there does need to be a review. Is it quarterly? Might be a little excessive. Annually, probably good, but just getting people to come and be interested to know these things is where we have to start.
Thanks, Billy. Same question, Jean Hillier.
Having been attending town council meetings since the budget session last fall, I've learned a lot, and a couple things. Emails have been sent by our town staff to those who've signed up for the town email distribution list. I've seen 2 or 3 of those since that meeting, and that's one of the ones that prompted me to sign up and was selected. Thank you. I recall somewhere along the line, I couldn't tell you exactly when, but again, after that event, there was a notice in the Cross Timbers Gazette. So people who read that would have seen it there. And I believe they were directed to the town's website for the application information. One thing that concerned me when I originally thought about this is like, am I qualified? What qualifications do I have? What are they looking for? And that really wasn't clear, maybe could be spelled out better. And then also maybe duties or what the committees do could be maybe clearly defined so people who are going to volunteer might have a better idea what they're volunteering for.
Thank you, Jean. Same question, Patrick Johnson.
So if we take the approach we've been taking, we're never going to get the appropriate amount of folks to join in. Double Oak is a little bit unique versus some of our other towns, to where each of those towns have town council members that represent a specific geography of their town, place 1, place 2, place 3. There's nothing wrong with the way we're doing it today. I like it. But the reality is should the town council sit down and in some ways subdivide Double Oak into responsibility areas to where get the message out means the town council gets out there, gets to their respective subdivisions, has the conversations, whether it be through direct contact, whether it be through some sort of flyer or mailer. If we started to canvass this town in a much greater mass, I believe we can get the volunteers. And these committees are all very, very important. We may be small in size, but we still have the same challenges that every other large community has, and we need to address it.
Thank you, Patrick. I hold in my hand the final question of the evening. And we begin with Timothy Bologna. The question is, what is the biggest issue in this election that has not been adequately addressed?
The biggest issue that has not been adequately addressed. Let's see, we've talked about planning and zoning, we've talked about commercial development, we talked about infrastructure, we talked about taxes, we've talked about police and fire. I think everyone has heard, a lot tonight, so I think we covered a lot of the issues that are important to the town, so.
That means the Cross Timbers Gazette is doing a good job of getting the questions asked. These questions were sent into the Cross Timbers. All right. So we move to Billie Garrett for your response.
There'll be something. Something will come up that we didn't talk about. I think this group has done a fine job of, answering all the questions. I think you've done a great job, Bob. And yeah, we've talked about everything. It seems like we've talked about the roads and, all the committees and just getting the volunteers in.
Thank you, Billy. Same question, Jean Hillier?
I agree with Timothy, and my point in short is, I think we've done a good job. One thing that hasn't come up that tonight, but is starting to be addressed by town council is a tax freeze for those who are elderly or disabled. I would like to see that brought to fruition to assist those who are living here on fixed incomes and are struggling to keep up.
Thank you, Jean. Same to Patrick Johnson.
I guess for me, it's, we need better transparency, better clarity coming out of our town council, coming out of this building. You know, I ran last year, I came up a little bit short. I learned a lot from it. And when I had some of the neighbors come over and talk to me about running again for town council, I asked the question, why? And they rattled off about 6 or 7 different items that I thought was a little bit odd. It prompted me to gain some interest and do a little bit more due diligence. So obviously there's something that has cropped up here over the past year that's created some anxiousness amongst our Double Oak citizens. And I think from what I've heard, a lot of it has to do with not sure what's really going on, haven't really been communicated to, things are done with anybody really bringing them to light. And I really believe that the transparency that I have seen a difference on over the past few weeks needs to continue and needs to become stronger.
Thank you, Patrick. Connie Schoenrade, your response.
Well, in addition to the transparency and stuff, I don't think we really touched on availability. One thing that I think that is important to the residents of Double Oak is that their town council and the administrative staff and all those that we hired into our town are available. I'd like to see the business be open, longer hours than 9 to 4. My 8 to 5 job doesn't really accommodate me to get to the hall if I need to. So I want the phone answered by a live person versus a phone tree. Efficiencies are great and stuff, but we're still a very small town, and we appreciate that of Double Oak. And so I want to push towards being more accessible, so that people can come to us and have our phone numbers, our emails to get to us and be able to walk into the building on reasonable hours. So I think we need to work towards that, and I would be a proponent for that.
Thank you, Connie.
Bob,
We'll-
just quickly, in the issue that Jean brought up about the tax freeze or ceiling, we are working, I'm actually, one issue I should have brought up, I'm working very closely with Denton County, and we hope to have that at council next Monday night to make a decision on, a property freeze ceiling for 65 and older and the disabled in our community.
Okay, thank you, Billy. Okay, we will now conclude tonight's forum with closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute, and we will ask them in reverse order to the opening statement. So we begin for 1 minute with Connie Schoenrade.
Well, thank you again for being here tonight and leading this forum, and for all of you guys who came out tonight, despite the weather. So I'm here, and I'm asking for your vote on May 7th. Why do I think I'd be good at council? I like to think I'm a good listener. I like to dig into projects and see them through. I'm an organizer, and I like to be involved, and I'm dedicated to finding the solutions. I care about this town. I love Double Oak and the vibe that it has. I don't want street lamps. I don't want stoplights. I don't want an infringement from our neighboring communities using us as a cut-through. I want to be helpful in getting in front of that and making sure that we can keep Double Oak our little space of heaven amongst all the other conveniences that we all love, but they're just a hop skip from us. And I want to keep it on the outskirts and not come in through. So I ask for your vote, and I appreciate you guys taking time out to listen to us tonight.
Thank you, Connie. Patrick Johnson, your 1 minute closing, please.
Again, thank you to the citizens of Double Oak for being here tonight, those online, Eagle Scouts for attending tonight. Congratulations, good luck with your badges. And of course, the town staff and obviously Cross Timbers Gazette. I have many years of experience leading organizations, coaching people to success, and building successful teams. My priorities representing the town of Double Oak will be transparency in government. The town council works for its citizens. protect and improve our infrastructure, 1 acre lot minimums, roads and drainage, invest in our city services with fiscal responsibility, keeping Double Oak one of the safest cities in Texas. We need to monitor our Double Oak lakes and streams to ensure that we don't have any environmental impacts. But, you know, last year I kind of ran on this, let's keep Double Oak, Double Oak. But I really believe that the mission of the next town council should be to improve Double Oak. And that's what I plan to do. Hit number 5 on the dial when you get into the voting booth, and I look forward to serving you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Gene Hilliard, your 1-minute closing, please.
I'd be honored to serve on the Double Oak Town Council, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, for Double Oak for opening the town hall, for the staff support, our mayor's support, and certainly the Cross Timbers Gazette. Couldn't have done it without you. I commit to being a good steward of your tax dollars. Growing up, I learned from my father, who grew up during the Depression, that the time to be frugal is when you have adequate resources, not when you don't have them. You never spend everything you have so that when there are economic challenges, you are well prepared to weather the storm. Double Oak does have a nice cushion sitting there. I'd like to maintain that, but also manage our tax revenues to not keep building that to an excessive amount. My objective is to respect Double Oak's past with the vision of our founders, while focusing and looking ahead and planning for our community's future, reflecting what's going on around us to make sure that we maintain what we are. So thank you again, looking forward to your vote, and I'm here for you.
Thank you, Gene. Billie Garrett, your 1-minute closing, please.
I say in many facets that I am my father's daughter, and one of the biggest things is a servant to my community. My brother mentioned in my father's eulogy that my dad strived to keep our small town of Clearwater the best place there was to live. I just didn't know there was another town just like it in Texas. And when we attended our first 4th of July, I looked at my husband, Neil, and told him, don't ever ask me to move, because you've moved me home. I'm just now in Texas. And that's what I want to do. I want to continue to serve my community, do what's best for my community, whether that be through taxes, growing the businesses, keeping everyone safe with our police department and our fire department. And I just implore everyone to vote. Double Oak doesn't have a big voter turnout, it doesn't seem like. And so whatever the best candidate that you choose, I just implore you to vote.
Thank you, Billy. Timothy Bologna, your 1-minute closing, please.
Thank you. Look, all of us want to protect what we have here in Double Oak. We all live here for a reason, right? I've put a lot of thought and consideration into developing a vision of what Double Oak can be and what I want to do. My hope is that, you know, you've learned a little bit about me and my ideas to do things right to move Double Oak forward. As a homeowner and a parent, you know, I want this town to continue to be a great place to raise a family. With action and fresh ideas, I will work strategically to develop a common vision to move Double Oak forward. I'm running, and I'll admit, as a bit of an underdog. I'm not an incumbent, although someday I hope to be one. I'm not campaigning with a slate of candidates. My slate is working for you. I'm here with my own ideas and hope that you'll give me consideration when you vote. I'm number 1 on the ballot, and you're certainly not going to forget the last name Bologna. So, you know, I want to engage with you, and you know, if you get a knock on your door from me, you know, together, what can we do to make Double Oak a great place to live, work, and play? Thank you for coming out, and you can find more about me at votefortimothy.com.
Thank you, Timothy, and thank you to all the candidates. Please give them a round of applause, folks. Also, I'd like some applause for our Eagle Scouts over here for the timekeepers. Thank you. Thank you very much. A reminder that tonight's forum is being recorded by the town of Double Oak and can be viewed at crosstimbersgazette.com. Early voting begins on Monday, April 25th, and ends on Tuesday, May 3rd. On Election Day, Saturday, May 7th, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Visit votedenton.gov or call 940-349-3200 for information on your specific polling place. Please visit the Cross Timbers Gazette website at www.crosstimbersgazette.com, on Facebook and Twitter for the latest Southern Denton County news updates. And remember, Local lives here. This concludes our program. Thank you, candidates. Thank you to Double Oak, and thank you all for attending.